Hello, and thank you for joining the Champion Within podcast, your premier go-to spot for unlocking your winning mindset. Whether you're an athlete looking to elevate your game to the next level, a coach leading the charge, an enthusiastic parent cheering from the sidelines, or an educator molding young minds, the Champion Within podcast episodes are packed with value, sharing the tools and strategies to unlock your potential and rise to new heights. Hosted by mentor, coach, and mindset leader Kate McCauley. Let's sit back and enjoy today's episode while discovering your champion within. And now, here's Kate.
Hey champions, thank you for joining us on the Champion Within today. I am really excited to bring this guest to you, and it's rare that I bring the microphone to anyone. I think this is only the third person I've done this for, so you know it's going to be a really good episode. We're going to dive into so many different stories today, and you know that the Champion Within is all about remarkable individuals who have made an impact on the world in some way, whether it's coaching, teaching in the business world. And today I am honored to introduce someone whose career, both in coaching and education, has truly shaped the lives of countless athletes and students. And honestly, as her neighbor, I'm really inspired by her all the time. So I really wanted to learn selfishly myself too during this conversation. Meet Debbie Schnellenbach, a retired teacher, a seasoned coach whose journey spans over 3 decades. She has been a key member when she was on the Cabrini field hockey coaching staff, bringing a wealth of experience to the Cavaliers sidelines. But Debbie's coaching legacy stretches far beyond that. She spent over 30 years at Ridley High School, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was 20 years as the head coach for their field hockey program. She led the Green Raiders to historic wins, including their first Central League title and a state championship appearance. In addition to her coaching success, Debbie is a retired English teacher from Interboro High School. And let's not forget her impressive role as a mother, also an adjunct professor at Temple University, where she shared her expertise in education with future educators. I am really thrilled and selfishly excited to learn myself from Debbie about her incredible journey, the lessons she learned, and the impact she had on so many lives.
Thanks.
You're welcome. How are you today?
I'm
Good. Let's let you talk about that education career and as a coach.
Okay, so when I got hired at Ridley, I told at Ridley first, and I was there for 8.5 years. And Mr. Donato, we called him Donato now, it's Donato, I think, but he was Donato. Mr. Donato said to me, do you play any sports? And I said, yeah, field hockey, basketball, and softball. And he said, okay, can you start on Monday? And I burst out laughing. I'm like,
start coaching on Monday?
Did I start teaching?
Oh, okay,
like,
teaching.
Wait a minute, am I teaching? Am I coaching? What am I doing?
Right.
He said, no. And I'm like, yeah, I can start. So I coached the 7th grade field hockey team in 1976.
Okay.
And then I did the 9th grade before we all went up to the high school. And crazily, I did not want to be head coach ever.
Tell me why. Why did you not want to be head coach?
Well, Adam was born 1984, and Georgia Natras was the head coach, and I was her assistant.
Gotcha.
And a phenomenal athlete, brilliant mind. She went to Yale University, so she said to me one day, Mrs. Schnell, because I coached her when she was in 7th grade.
Okay.
And then I was coaching with her. She goes, I have an opportunity for this company. It's called Apple, like Macintosh Apple. And they're going to start me at $80,000. And I said, Georgianne, you're making $2,000 as a head coach.
Right. This is a no-brainer.
What are you talking? I thought you went to Yale.
Right.
I love her. But so she left and nobody applied. So they called me in and
Okay.
I'm like, I have a 1 year. He wasn't even 1. I mean, so he was born January, September. I'm like, how? How am I going? You can do it. You can do it.
Right.
So that's how it happened.
Okay.
I kind of got thrown into it against my will.
Right. And then you never left.
I never left.
Okay. I'm curious, Deb, are there any coaches that have impacted your journey, maybe as a young athlete or as a coach or someone you would want to thank?
I would actually like to dedicate this podcast to Ron DeFelice. When they pretty much said you're the head coach and Adam was 9 months old, I'm like, there's no assistance. I have to do both of them. You can do it. I'm like, I just had a baby, Ronnie, in 1976.
Mm-hmm.
They needed a softball coach. And so I coached with him for maybe 5 to 8 years, I guess. And then he decided he was just going to do softball. But then he said, no, you know what, I still love hockey. And his daughters played for us. So he was just an asset. All the girls loved him. He was almost like our trainer. And it, like always, is another pair of ears, another set of eyes. I think that's with Jackie Neary at Cabrini. And she coached with us also, along with Ronnie. When you have all those people, they're helping you out. Like they're seeing something differently than you're seeing, because I might be watching one thing, they're watching this, they're watching this. Ron would just come over at some point and go, you might want to take her out.
Give you a little tip.
Jackie's like, you might want to take her out. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to hold on for a minute, and then we'll see what happens, and then we'll take her out, chat with her, put her back in. But he always had that extra set of ears and eyes, and he was great. And he was so smart. He was a physics teacher at the high school, and then he taught at Hahnemann. And all the kids who took his class at Hahnemann aced their exam or the other one, so they actually made him like a professor at Hahnemann.
Oh, really
and
cool.
While he was still coaching. But he's just a great man and a great coach.
Awesome. Well, huge shout out to him. Been in the coaching, head coach, assistant coach.
Yeah.
You know, as we move on to the next question, before we do, would you give any either assistant or head coach a tip? I heard you say they would be that extra set of eyes, ears, and give you maybe something you're not seeing.
Yeah.
How would you tell a head coach or an assistant coach to do that for each other? If you could give them some advice.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a set standard for that. It's your personnel. You have to get along with everyone, and we're always on the same page. And somebody would say like, well, what about that one? Did you scout them? I'm like, no, I don't scout because it's field hockey. I don't scout. I just don't. And I said, I'm watching my girls. I'm seeing what they're doing. I have other coaches here that are helping. They're looking.
Right.
Or I might even go over and say, hey, pay attention to number 23.
Right.
And, we might
so you have to be able to get along with each other.
Yeah. If you don't like your head coach, or if there's that animosity, even a little bit, that comes across.
Sure.
I mean, it definitely comes across. I don't know. When we were at Cabrini, I was probably, I'm not mean. Everybody thinks I'm mean, but I'm not mean. But like
tough love, I like to call it.
Jackie would say, Schnell, call number so-and-so and get them over here real fast. So like I'd be, because I'm so loud.
Teacher voice.
Honestly. I mean, I did very well in college. I had a nice resume. But I got the job because they needed a softball coach. They needed a seventh grade hockey coach. So you might be put in a situation where maybe you're not going to get along. I recommend that you just don't stay. I can't imagine working with people I don't like. It's just something I can't do as coaching.
Makes sense.
Too many variables involved for me to have somebody that's not really working with me or trying to counter everything I do.
I call that a red flag. Pay attention to it. You're not going to be able to change someone. And everyone's thinking, well, maybe if I do this. But
yeah, you're right. They're not going to change because they have their own agenda.
Right. And it's okay if you don't align with that sometimes. But like you said, you have to make a decision. Yeah. If you're not getting along, you don't want to be miserable. Right.
Why are you sticking this out? I don't get it. Yeah. But I haven't had that at all. I said my assistants have been great. Everyone's been
amazing.
Wonderful. And even with Jackie, like I said, she would call me when her daughter played for her. And if Jackie was, I don't know, doing something that her mom didn't like, she'd say, Schnell, come here. And I'd go over. And she'd say, you have to talk to my daughter. Yell at her to do whatever. And
right.
I'm like, okay.
That's a hard role to be in. I've done it at the youth level with my own kids. And I remember someone being like, who is your kid? Because you try not to be, or ask that assistant to, that's a tough role to be in. But it's good to be able to have that with the coaching staff that you can all lean on each other, respect each other, and have those tough conversations sometimes.
I think it's necessary.
Well, thanks for giving that shout out to him. I think that's amazing. And shout out to really anyone that you've coached with or amazing. So when you were coaching in those early days compared to now, what's the biggest difference?
No. I would just have, and I don't want to say, well, I don't know. It's the kids are different. I feel that they're different. I mean,
tell me, what do you think?
Really long times. They don't have the work ethic, a lot of them, like they should.
Okay.
And I was talking to Maura about it. I said, I almost feel like club teams have overtaken
the school team.
The school team.
Yeah.
You have girls who are playing club and they're playing us, but if you want to go to school, you have to be on a club team. And they pretty much recruit from the club teams.
Right.
And I said, well, listen, I said, when I went to started coaching, I'm all about having like a safe haven.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all about, I want you to feel comfortable. I want you to be part of this. I want you to buy into what I'm selling. But then you have like some kids who are like, well, it's really kind of like, nah, I don't want to work that hard. You work too hard. I feel bad because some of the girls who are doing both, like they're
club and high school team,
like they're working their butts off, and then you have others who are just kind of along for the ride, and like we have to play me because I'm a senior,
right?
And I'm like, I did that one time also, and I stopped doing that. And I know that a lot of parents are upset. I put a senior in, and she scored for the other team.
No,
my defenders.
Oh my gosh!
1-0.
So you put her in because she was a senior, thinking you should,
and I knew that I should. No, so I see it. I see my grandchildren.
It's just, what do you think is causing it?
Well, I think that all this. I think the internet,
being online,
and all the devices, and I just think there's so much out there that we didn't have.
Right.
And I said, like, my grandson's playing baseball, and he's not very good.
Okay.
And I said, well, he never played.
Right.
We went out and we played baseball. We went out, we played
were out in the street.
We played football because we had a playground right next to my house. And we played all that. We knew what the bases were. We knew what the football teams, who was on the football teams.
Right.
But they're just going.
Do you know, when I was a health and phys ed teacher, speaking of baseball in particular, we would do softball during phys ed class. The majority of my students didn't know how to hold the bat or run the bases at the high school.
Yeah. No, I totally
So now, I mean, people could say, oh, we don't really play that sport in this area. Okay. But like you said, they're outside playing. They're just not doing that.
Well, I will tell you this. We would play football. I can remember going in and saying to my dad, tell me again, what's first down?
Right.
And my brother's going, that pole.
Right. So you're like, but
when I'm watching the football game, I'm like, I don't get it.
Where's the pole?
And my dad's like, there's 10 yards right there. Like, that's the pole.
Right.
Like, oh, okay. We had that.
Yeah, you just went outside. My mom, actually, I lived over in Fairport, not far from here. She spray painted bases. It was a circle. Yeah. So we could all be out there. So had bases spray painted so that we could play. Now, if I dared to suggest something like that now, they would be like, why would we do that,
I mean, it's a different world. I'm glad I'm on the far end of the arc now. I'm like way over here.
Do you think that pendulum will swing back or no?
I truly believe it's going.
Yeah. It makes me sad.
It really is. It makes you crazy.
Yeah.
I used to have on my field hockey team, and I'm like bragging about this, 78 girls.
Okay.
I need 11.
Yeah.
And I went into the office and I'm like, hey, I need 11. I have 78. Right. You're not cutting. I said, I didn't say I was cutting. What the hell am I supposed to do? I've got 78 girls. I need 11. So we took 3 buses to games. So I'd have like a traveling team.
Okay.
And they would,
like an A team, basically.
Yeah, so you got to play for the JV.
Okay.
We would rotate those girls.
Right.
And then I would run them. I was running them. Like, surely they're going to drop. They're going to quit. They're going to quit. The one girl came. She's
thinking they'll quit. Right?
2 of my friends. I'm like,
we're now up to 80.
What? 2 of your friends? No, this is not what I was planning. So and Mara, I think now she may have 22.
Okay. And for those who are my listeners who don't know, that's okay. Mara coaches field hockey now at the high school level. Who's your daughter? And right, you still do help out over there, right? Yeah. It's weird when I'm hearing you say that this has changed, that has changed, because when you were coaching, and I don't know what year it was when you had 78 girls.
Probably late 80s.
Okay.
Maybe early 90s.
Okay. So early 90s, I graduated high school in 96. I didn't play field hockey for you. I always wished I would have played field hockey, but I came from the Catholic school. I wish that I had done that. From the Catholic school coming up, we played volleyball, and it was just, and I'm like, I'm really short. I should not have done that. But anyway, I've always loved, my daughter played field hockey until track took over, and she loves track. Yeah, so she played youth field hockey in 9th grade, actually. But so anyway, the parents are the ones who were with you maybe on those 3 buses, maybe a little older, some of them, depending if it was like the late 80s, early 90s. It could be early 90s-ish for some of those parents. Now, their kids are the athletes. So are we screwing them up? Are we doing something?
I believe
I'm not trying to get any parent in trouble. I'm talking about me, honestly. Like, I'm thinking sometimes, like, I want to make sure when my Danny was born, I'm like, I don't want to screw this kid up, and then now you're in that sports, right?
I never sugarcoat anything.
Right.
And that's why Mara's nervous.
Yes. And we're not, listen, before we even answer this question, let me just say, I'm talking in general. You taught a lot of kids in Interborough. You coached it at Ridley. You coached for Cabrini. So I don't want to get a message. It's like, I think you're talking about me.
No.
I'm never talking about anyone. I'm talking in general.
Well, I'm talking about my daughter right now.
Right.
Because I do not sugarcoat. And when she played field hockey, she was a really good field hockey player.
Right.
Better than lacrosse. I think she should have gone to school and played field hockey instead of lacrosse, but water under the bridge now.
Right.
I never sugarcoated anything. If she sucked that day, I'm like, girl, you sucked. And her father, she would come home and Carl would say to her, yo, X-Lax, everything went through you today. What's going on?
Oh my God.
Listen, and that's how we are. And some people
give it to you straight.
Even now, we were in the playoff game, and I'm like, we have to call timeout. Every time I offer suggestions, she's like, Mom, no. I said, then why am I here? I need to know why I'm here. What, are you watching me?
Right.
I'm not that old yet. I said, this is what you should have done.
Right.
You should have done this. You should have done that. But I really, no, I've never, even in school as an English teacher, I would write really pretty funny comments on them. Like, are you kidding?
Right. Are you kidding me?
Is this? And Laura's like, I don't think you can say that. But no, I don't sugarcoat anything.
I mean, I think I can tell you as a teacher myself, when I was teaching, so many parents would come back to us and be like, you can't be doing that. But the times that I made the biggest impact or when I gave it to them straight, their parents and their kids. And it didn't always resonate right away, but many of them came back to me later and said, thank you for telling me that my son was throwing dice in the bathroom. And that's why his junior prom ticket wasn't paid for. He was trying to say, somebody took my money, and I was like, tell your mother what really happened, and principals, everyone got real straight and we're like, uh-oh, Kate is going to say it right now. But I don't know what happened that we're...
Don't hurt their feelings.
Right.
I'm like the queen of
because
that. And not intentionally, it's just like comes out. And I'm like, oh, that wasn't very good. Like, what?
Now, with all of that, I'll say now that I run my business, you have to be direct with people and say things. And I can do that. Yeah. But do you know how many people in the corporate space can't?
They can't.
A lot.
So now, overall, Ridley also, Interborough, and I'm finding like the younger, I was 100% professional when I went to school to teach.
Sure.
I dressed on Fridays. I didn't like the whole dress down thing because some of them looked like they jumped out of their hamper.
Okay.
And just came and I didn't understand. Like, what do you have on? I'd wear a dress or maybe nice slacks on Friday. They're like, Schnell, what is wrong with you? And I substituted Chester. I went to Chester High. I played hockey at Chester High and all the other sports. And so after college, I substituted there. And there was a girl they called Big Bird. She was gigantic.
A teacher?
No.
A student?
Way bigger. Way taller than I.
Okay.
She was a ninth grader, and she said, hey, miss. And I said, hey. She goes, why are you always dressed up? And I'm like, I love to dress. I always did my whole life. I love to dress up. She said, well, we like that. And I said, well, thank you. So I just think professionally. So there were some kids, they're kids to me, but they're professional.
Right.
Who look literally like crumb grabbers. Like, you're supposed to be a role model.
Right. Even on a dress down day, maybe you could look a little bit more.
Wash your hair.
Right.
I don't know. And Laura's like, why are you so mean? I said, I'm not mean. We're role models, whether you like it or not. They're paying attention to what we're doing.
Very true.
And what we're saying.
Yeah.
I said, so, I don't know. I think you just have to, and the principals, they won't say anything. They won't say one thing. This one girl, oh my God, one teacher, very buxom. And I was like, whoa,
student,
somebody has to say something.
Right.
They can't say any of that. And I'm like, somebody has to.
Right.
I don't understand.
Same thing when I was a teacher, especially the male administrators, they would be like, oh, no, we're not. Now, as the health and phys ed teacher, I was a little bit, I don't know, maybe they would call me edgy or that I would just say it how it was. Who knows? But I would be like, would your grandmother want you wearing that? Like, we don't want to see your boobs or butt. And like, other people, and and then they would go change or put, here's a t-shirt. But I feel like there is that, I don't know if it's entitlement or afraid of what to say, and it's carrying over into sports in many ways. Now, I do think that kids are kids, but I think that they're being conditioned and taught that, we're allowed to do whatever we want and say whatever we want. So, because I truly think you are an expert in this field, what can we do to fix it?
I don't know. Listen, I've been thinking about it. I really have. Yeah. It has to be with the parents. And I think a lot of times the parents aren't there to parent. And both parents in this society, you have to work. Everybody has to work now. Yep. So maybe they don't have what we had. Like my mom was a stay-at-home mom until I'm one of 10, 9 girls and 1 boy. So until Donna, the youngest, went to school, and then she got a job at the school cafeteria. So it worked out perfectly. Yeah. But there was always somebody there. There was always somebody to talk to. There was always somebody to help you with the problem. There's always somebody to feed you. When we have kids, listen, my whole thing, I had it on my wall at school, will work for food. Okay. My kids, because I taught seniors, would do anything if I fed them.
So true.
Anything. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, if we can get the whole class here for 1 week straight without
pizza or whatever,
like an idiot. Nifty 50s.
Oh, you went all in, yeah.
And I had a student from Africa, and he goes, "Oh, what is Nifty 50s?" Right. And so we got him a milkshake and what have you. And it cost me
small fortune. Sure. Yeah.
But they were there every single day for that just 1 week. That's all I was asking.
Right.
I don't know, you have to give them that incentive. Like, you have to give them something. I just try to give them, like, a safe haven. Come to my room. Yeah. I'll have something for you. I'll have some food for you. We'll learn some lessons. I'll teach you about literature, whatever.
Right. Yeah. My mom was a science teacher, and she would always have coffee brewing and breakfast, and she would let the high school kids, have a cup, have some breakfast, different things. And really, if we think about it, food brings people together.
It's communion.
Right.
I don't want to commune with people. You break bread, not break heads.
Oh, I love that. I mean? Yeah.
So I want to sit with people. I don't think teaching's hard. I didn't think, during COVID, that actually worked. That was probably my best Hamlet that I ever taught. And I don't know why. Everybody was jumping in on Hamlet.
Oh, wow. Virtually, or when you got back in? Oh, okay.
And I'm like, what? Guys, I don't know what's going on.
Right.
What is happening?
Is this real?
And, it was kind of weird. Yeah, but I don't know. It's just a different world, a different society.
Yeah, it is.
And you keep trying, to do things how they used to be. This is how this used to be.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a blend between how we are now, because honestly, I don't want to say we have to fix kids, but we need to see where they are right now. Yeah. And can you bring a blend of that into the old school OG way of doing things? Because there's something missing. When I go into work with teams, the biggest piece is they're all competing with each other. I'm like, that's what everybody says. And I'm like, this is a problem. You're a team. I went to Ridley, Interborough. We were against Interborough, not the people on our own team. Yeah. And even going out to work in the summer, doing running and different things like that. You just did it because we were all doing it, and it's almost like, I don't know if we need that accountability piece or what we need.
Yeah, I wish I had the answer. I really do wish I had the answer.
Because sports is so valuable, especially for female athletes. Yeah. They have all the studies of, moving on into CEOs and, research shows 2 things. One, you're more successful, but it's also showing girls especially are quitting because they don't love it anymore. They're not having fun. And it's we're in charge as the parents and the coaches. So what's happening that these kids are quitting?
Okay, so what's happening is, this is my opinion, they start them so young. And I even carve with wrestling, it's 54 years or however many years. And you start them so young that by the time they get to the high school, middle school, high school, they're over it. We're over it.
Yeah, they're burning out.
And again, the whole club scene comes into play, that you're playing. We had girls who were on clubs, softball teams, hockey teams, club lacrosse teams, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, really, like, what are you doing?
Right.
Do you want to play softball in college? Do you want to play this?
So they were on club for each sport.
Yeah. And I'm like, I think you have to figure something out.
Right.
Here.
Yeah.
And we had some people who, like, they missed games because they had a club game. And I'm like, no. Who's your coach? And Mara's like, shut up. Mara.
Right. Yeah.
And I said, no, I think they need to know that this is so, or get rid of high school sports. And it's all club.
Now, when you were at Cabrini and you're recruiting, are people saying, like, we have to look at the club team? Is that why kids are doing it?
Not Jackie Neary. Jackie is head coach. And Jackie, God, I love Jackie to death. She's just the sweetest, best girl ever.
Yeah.
What she would do was, she's from New Jersey. I mean, she went to Ridley, but lives in Jersey. So she knows all of the coaches. She knows all of the teams. And so she would run and watch them. Okay. So we got a girl from Stone Harbor. Around Stone Harbor, I think that's where it was. That, in my mind, should have been D1. Okay. Somebody should have picked her up, but she didn't play club, so no one picked her up. Yeah. So we got her. Oh my God, the coaches are calling like, how long is she going to be here? Like, what year is she now? Right. She got recruited she graduated from Cabrini, and she was playing in Florida, lacrosse in Florida. Oh, wow. For her master's. Because we had the whole COVID. We had an extra year. Right. So, but she was phenomenal, but she did not play club. Okay. And I feel like in Pennsylvania, they're all about the club. I mean, Jersey and New York, I know that also. But Jackie would go recruit at the high school level. It wasn't like she was hanging with the club team. However, she does coach for NXT. Okay. So she gets to see girls there as well. It's like a tough place to be in as an athlete and a parent because I just interviewed someone who's a coach of a different sport, and he said, if you don't play club, they're not even looking at you. Right. Yeah. And it's like, if you want to play at the next level, and it's tough though, because then you lose that school vibe and all of that. And like you said, you have to pick what's your number one team. You're going to miss practice, which makes it difficult for coaches like Mara and you and everyone who's trying to figure out, I want to put the best player out there on the field, but the best player's not always here at practice even. Yeah. We had I'm talking years ago. I had a girl who ran track and played field hockey. And on occasion, the track meet would start at 3 and like, her part of it would be over by 4, so she'd come and I'd put her in and she'd score goals. Right. And they're all like, why is she getting to play? Why is she playing? I'm like, what are you kidding me? Like, she just ran a track meet. Right. Like, she can play. Yeah, she plays two sports. She's a nice little athlete. Simmer down, everybody. Right. Like, she's sometimes I think, and maybe people aren't going to like me saying this, but I think sometimes people don't necessarily think the best players should be out there anymore. I despise that. Yeah. And I don't want you to say anything to get anyone mad, but I think that used to just always be the way, and now it's like you deserve, almost like in the classroom or wherever, we deserve it. I'm like, what do you mean you deserve it? This is the best player. And I think there's something to be said, when you said that 78 girls were playing, and being on the team itself, you gain so much, even if you were not the star player or in the game, because you're not the best. Yeah. I used to say to my own kids, and when I was a teacher before I had kids, the best player we'll get out there. And now that doesn't always happen, because we're seniors or whatever. Exactly. I get it for some occasions, maybe, but the majority of the game should be, we want to win, and we're putting the best players. That's what I'm saying. What are you doing? You have to. We've done all of this conditioning. We've done all this practicing. What, just to play the people who, just to make them feel better? Right. I don't know. But in Mara's defense, when she took over as head coach. She took over right after you? No. Oh, there was in between. Okay, I thought so, yeah. Yeah. And then when she asked me Mom, can you help me? And I still coached at Cabrini, but I said, Mara, you know what? After watching her, I said, I feel like you're probably a better coach than me. And she went, what? And I said, she would have Wellness Wednesday. Right. Yeah, Kylie told me about that when she was there. Like, what are you doing? Right. And she goes, Wellness Wednesday. And I'm like, what? Right. And she goes, we're all going to relax. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go talk to soccer. I'm going over here. Right. And you guys do your Wellness Wednesday. But she's so concerned about the well-being of the kids. Yeah. And not that I wasn't. I mean, if there was something that we didn't have, and that's the whole other thing too. You didn't have the, I don't even know how to say it. They carry a lot in now that they maybe weren't carrying before. Because I'm just like, come on, you got to figure this out. This is what we have to do.
Right.
And that's just...
I mean, I'll tell you, the basis of my entire business is the whole athlete, you know, and sometimes I'm like, why don't people just know how to do this? But then I realize that I don't know if we're giving kids more to carry early in life or they're not outside playing the bases and running the bases.
I truly believe it's the parents. And I mean, I don't want to put all the blame on parents.
Sure.
But if you're not there, I mean, we used to sit there like 12, my mom and dad. We'd all sit down and how was your day? What was going on?
Right.
And when I was a senior in high school, we did not have a good hockey team.
Okay.
My sister Kathy was the goalie.
Okay.
And we'd come home and my dad would say, "So Kathy, how many goals you let in today?"
Right. Goes, just mess with her.
Too many.
Right.
We lost. You know what I mean? But there was somebody who cared about what you did.
Right. Exactly.
And my mom and dad never, ever saw any of the 10 of us play. Ever.
Really?
Because parents didn't do that.
Okay.
They had jobs.
Yeah.
You had one car.
Right.
How are you going to do the field?
Yeah.
And I think that's a whole spectrum.
That's a whole podcast in itself,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, never, ever one time.
Yeah.
Ever.
You know, during COVID, Danny was playing high school basketball. He was a freshman at the time. It was such a weird journey because we were like hybrid situation. Mm-hmm. I was still teaching from home. It was crazy. Yeah. They had to wear masks as basketball players. So it was just like soaking wet. Yeah. He's doing it. And he said, "I got to tell you something. And this isn't about you." I'm like, uh-oh, what is he about to tell me right now? He's like, "It's weird that no one's at our games because there was rules that if it was a home game, you could have two people on a list who could come in. Right, if it was an away game, only the home fans could be there. 2 people." So he played a school, and I'm forgetting what school, but the kids lived there. It was like a boarding school. I don't know. It was a school where the kids were on campus living. Yeah. So really there was no parents there because they couldn't come because of COVID. Right. Normally maybe they had fans. Yeah. They had no fans at this game. And we couldn't go because it was an away game. Yeah. He said, "It's weird that we don't have all the fans." He's like, "It's not about you. I'm talking about people in general." I'm like, it's probably half about me. Yeah, exactly. He's like, "Nobody is coming up to me after and saying, 'Danny, this is what you should have done. This was good, but..." Yeah. And now this happened to him a lot as a basketball player. He just loved the game. But even when he was little, randoms would come up to him and be like, "Hey, number 11, you should be doing this." Like they were like the pros. I'm like, we're at ABA, like youth basketball. And he would just like very politely be like, "Okay," like taking it all in. But it really struck a chord with me that I was like, ooh, like I got to watch my tongue, 1, and 2, because I loved playing basketball and whatnot. So I probably said more during a basketball game than I did during field hockey because I didn't play field hockey, even though I wish I had. Right. I just wasn't saying that as much to Kylie, you know? So I was like, maybe these fans are impacting it more than we realize.
So my sister's granddaughter played volleyball for Oxford High School.
Okay.
And they had to sign, any spectator had to sign this paper that you would not, complete sportsmanship. You would not be calling.
Oh, wow.
You would not be shouting.
Everybody coming in the door?
Everyone coming in. So I said to my sister, because she was like,
"You're like,"
and I'm like, "Ooh, how's that?" And she goes, "I don't like it. I don't like it at all." And I'm like, "Well, I kind of get it. Because you're at volleyball, you're in, field hockey out.
Sure.
And like, who cares? You're not hearing everything."
Yeah.
But she didn't like that at all.
Yeah.
But I said,
interesting.
That's what you have to do. Really. Again, with the parents, you can't keep blowing smoke.
Yeah.
If it's not there, guess what? It's not there. So I learned a lesson from Pat Turner of Wisconsin Rock Schools. I love Pat Turner. She was so successful. And I'm like, oh, every time we played, she kicked my ass. Every time.
Right.
Like, oh. Anyway, so I said to her, like, I have these girls whose parents are like, they should be playing. I'm like, oh, well, maybe they shouldn't. Yeah. So she gave me like this whole list of things to do.
Yeah, what did she say? So they could steal it.
You have to, okay, so we're going to do dribble. You have to be able to dribble, keep the stick on the ball, up to the 30, turn around, come back, pass it to the next person within this many seconds. Okay. If you couldn't do that, this is what your time was. So if a parent said anything, they could say,
the stats.
Well, here you go. Here's the stats. So she's only running, that's the whole other thing. Ooh. I had girls who could do the mile in like under 6. Some of them could do it, but mostly back in the day, it would be like 7, 8 or whatever.
Right.
So the first time with Mara, I could not stop laughing. And I'm like, they're on 20 minutes. What are we talking about
for
here?
the mile?
And Mara's like, and I'm like, I'm having a hard time. Like, I could walk it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm old. And I said, I just don't understand it. And some of those same girls, like their parents are the ones, why aren't they playing? So I said, Mara, you've got to do what Pat Turner did.
Yeah.
You have to definitely, here you go. This is what we're doing. These are the drills. And this is where you're standing. So let's try to make that better.
Right. How can we improve?
And I mean, I know there are some girls who hate to run. And are phenomenal in the field.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's figure something out for them. Figure out how we're going to work this.
Right.
Like maybe you could do it split. Maybe can you do like 4 minutes here and then we'll catch you later.
Right.
Just try to come up with something.
Or at least to see improvement or, you know. Yeah. And like a growth mindset type thing. Yeah. I'm jumping in to interrupt this podcast to share that I've dropped Mindset Mode. This is a private podcast for people who don't have time to sit still, but know something needs to shift. $7 a month gets you bite-sized tools so that you can breathe through the stress, deal with drama, build confidence, push through fear, break the mental junk holding you back. This isn't some sit on a cushion for an hour type of vibe. It's real, it's fast, it's for the doers, the busy parents, the athletes, the goal-getters who feel stuck or overwhelmed. Pop in your earbuds and hit play, because if you want different results, you gotta do something different. Your momentum starts here. Mindset Mode is live. Let's go. I'm so excited for you to access this. Go to the show notes after this podcast, tap on the link, and it's all yours. I was coaching a middle school team. This was before I had kids. And I was in Southeast Delco. We were just going up Upper Darby. Not a long ride. Yeah. As we're driving there, cell phones were fairly new, but the kids had cell phones. And this was probably an 8th grader. First, I'm like, what are you doing out of your seat? She's up, I'm like, sit down. Like the bus driver's yelling. She hands me her cell phone. And her mom is like, I'm not even going to say the name of the kid. Is so-and-so going to be playing? Are they starting? And I looked at this was like a first time situation for me. And I was like, where are you? Like, first I'm like, where are you? Are you following the bus? Like, where are you coming to the game today? Like trying to talk to the mom. Yeah. Like, hey, how are you? I was being a little bit of a smart ass too. Like, oh, good to talk to you too. Like in the beginning, and she's like, I'm at work and blah, blah, blah. Wherever I work, I can't leave to go, but she should be starting and she should be doing this. I said, and I took a breath and my body language, usually facial expressions as well, gives away a lot to people. So the athlete knew that I was like, are you kidding? Right. Mm-hmm. So I said to the mom, listen, this isn't where I want to have this conversation with you, but I don't think that you're being honest with yourself, And I said, she's not as good as you think she is. I said, I love her as a kid. And she tries, she's working hard, but she's not a starter. I said, I'm not going to talk about this with you again. And I gave the phone back, said so-and-so's name. Please don't do that to me again. If your mom wants to talk to me, we can do that at a different time. Definitely not on the bus. Now, the kid got in the game, not more because of this phone call, but how she always got in the game. We were up and then she got in. And the kid did come to me later and say, after the game, no one's around. She's like, I'm sorry. Like she took ownership, which I appreciated. Nice, but the mom still gave me a bunch of crap, afterwards. Like she doesn't start. So I invited her to just come to just one practice, which I never had the parents come, but I was like, just come on in and pop in that we'll be talking afterwards, which I did want to talk with her. Come for the last 5 minutes and just watch. And the mom was even like,
And I mean, we've been at it long enough that we know. And you don't want to hurt, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But I'm not going to lie to you. It's just not in my nature. It's not my character to lie to you. Like, honey, stop. Stop.
Right.
Who said to come out for the sport? Why?
Right.
You're not even coordinated. Mara and Carolyn and all those guys. We had a special needs girl who came at the end of September, and the athletic director came up to me and said, you have to play her. I said, whoa. I have to play her?
Right.
I mean, if she had a brother, could you take him down to Joe McNick? and say you have to play her at the end of September. I don't think so.
Right.
But anyway, we loved her.
Right.
Loved her. And she told everybody that she was the head scorer. Like,
okay. Yeah.
She was great. But I'm like, you're never going to play. Like, you can't play.
Right.
We have to get her in. And I'm like, I have to get her in. I have to get everybody. They're not very good. How am I getting them all in?
Yeah.
I just think we all need to be honest.
Be honest with your ability. And when you go out into the real world, I always thought this when I was in Southeast Delco, and now I can say it because I'm not a teacher there. We're doing a great disservice to these kids by not being honest, not giving them a consequence for behaviors that are inappropriate because when they go out into Wawa or they get a job, it's not going to fly. Certain things you can get away with in certain places, but you're not going to keep moving up and be successful. Everyone just says, you're so good when you're not. Or when you do something that requires a consequence and you don't get it.
And I really think like with sports, that's what we're supposed to teach you. Discipline and life lessons.
Yeah.
Like you should be learning life lessons.
What do you think is the biggest life lesson either you learned or maybe a story you can think of a kid really learned? I do think that girl who handed me a cell phone learned a little bit that probably wasn't the best time to give this to the coach or whoever the person is in charge, my boss, like later in life. Because she did say, I was wrong there. And she admitted it. And I appreciated that.
I mean, and I'm like, if I'm wrong, I'm telling you I'm wrong. I'm not, and I'm going to apologize.
Right.
I'm going to say, sorry, this happened, sorry, whatever. I'd have to say that when we went to states, the year we went to states, we kept winning. And I'm like, I can remember saying to Carl, like, what's going on?
Right. Yeah.
Because just run with it. And so the one game we had lost, and it was for state seeding in state.
Okay.
And we at the state tournament, so we ended up losing. We were winning 1-0 like almost the whole game, and then after that it was like bam, 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 bam. Like they had 5 goals in the locker room, and I like went crazy for a long, very long time.
Okay,
and I told them what we were talking about. You all need to like look inside to see
look within.
What are we doing? Where are we going? We're in the state tournament now, so for seeding, so that we kept getting I got lucky with the draws for seeding. Okay. Counselor Rock had beaten us during the season, and I didn't have to play her, but she got beaten, so I had to play the team. She beat her, and I beat them. Okay. And it was not the team. Right. And it was just like, we just kept going, and it was just like so freaky. But I just remember, you got to look inside yourself. Like, did you do the best you could do? And there was one player who was phenomenal and defensively, and I kept her and I took everybody else out. I was so pissed off. I gave all the underclassmen, let's go. You're not going to have this opportunity. It's a state.
Right. Get in. Yeah.
And that's when it was like, bippity boppity boo.
Right.
You just kept scoring.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't care at this point. I don't care. Yeah, it's just crazy. And then we actually lost. We came in second. And it was like, it was so celebratory. I'm like, wait, we lost. And that's another thing. I'm like, okay. And this is going to sound hokey. You win or you learn.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Like you win or you learn. Like forget this losing crap. Like whatever. But I would come in with Carl, how you doing, Michael? Losers. We lost. And put the damn ball in the net. I'm like, I don't know. They can't do it or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But I do remember I took full, and as I always would, because I took full responsibility for the state game. And I can remember when they were all crying. I'm like, why are you crying? Don't cry. Look how far we came.
Right.
Don't cry. And I said, it's 100% my fault. 100%. Because I'm like, I don't know. Football, they get the tapes and they look at the tapes and they do this and they do this. And Carl's like, you need to start looking at the tapes. And I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
It's field hockey. You don't know what's going to happen at any given time. Things are changing up. Right. So, I can look at it. I can see what your corners are or what happened. Right. I can't really
predict from that.
What's going on from the game.
Right.
And I'm always watching my kids to see that they're doing what I want them to do.
Right.
But I did say to them, I probably should have really looked at their film, but there's no way we could have beaten them. I never beat them.
They were just a better team.
I couldn't beat them at all.
Yeah.
They're like my nemesis.
Okay.
I'm like, shit.
Now, what did you learn from that?
I just learned that sometimes you lose.
Yeah.
Oh, you learn.
You learn. Well, when you lose, you learn. When you lose, you learn. Yeah. And I think that you said a couple things that I would love to pull out from there. which is really the basis of what I do. When you said, you got to look within you, look within. I mean, that is why they're all comparing to each other. They're looking around and not within, and of course you have to be aware of who the better players are and different things. What did you bring today to this space? What did you do to show up? Did you do anything outside of practice? When you look within and take ownership for that, it's like this ripple effect into the team. And then, of course, you got to work together as a team,
And again, that's where Maura, she does that after every single game. Like even at halftime, she's all right, we're going to focus on the positive.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing correctly here?
Right.
And then, okay, so what should we fix? Like, what do you think we should fix? So that's good. It's just crazy.
It's the same concept of what did you learn?
Yeah, you did.
At halftime, like you said, what can we learn? Because you can't change that. You can only, what you do next matters most type of thing. You cannot, unfortunately, change the last play. That's another thing that I find athletes in small groups or even one-to-one, they don't have that next play mentality. They get stuck in it.
I agree.
And I think that's always been a thing. And, again, if you can look within, I think that, you got to be able to take ownership for that. And it's not easy. But like you said, you gain so many skills from playing sports that can help you in other areas of life. Did you ever see that carry over into the classroom? Like that skill as an athlete or a coach where it helped you in the classroom as a teacher?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Yeah. And again, I would always try to be positive, like in the class, as well as on the hockey field. Mm-hmm. But definitely in the classroom, because these kids, again, they didn't have anybody at home.
Right.
Like nobody was. Just a quick story. I had this one student, and it was his birthday. I knew he loved Dunkin' Donuts, but I didn't know it was his birthday when it was his actual birthday. But the next day, I went and got him a gift card to Dunkin' Donuts, and he cried. Yeah. And I'm like, he said, no one has ever given me. Oh. Now, this kid's 18, 19 years old.
A birthday gift?
So I don't know. I just always tried to do like so many fun, positive things in my classroom.
Right.
And even on the hockey field. Like, you have to have fun. Like the one year, this one teacher at the middle school, she walked by before the high school was built.
Okay.
The new high school. And we were doing the Macarena. That was part of their thing.
Sure.
So she calls me on the phone. She goes, girl, you're crazy. And I said, I just figured, give them a little break.
Right,
We're doing a really hard drill.
Right.
So
let's have some fun.
Break. Let's have some fun. And I would always do that, in the classroom, too. This is what we're going to do today. Get up. We got to do this.
A little brain break without, it being an official brain break when they're now, do all those things. Because you do. You have to move your body. You have to...
You do. Get up and do something. It's just crazy. And I always had the at-risk kids.
Okay.
And
as a teacher.
Yeah. And I had the 8, so I said, okay, if I have that risk, I need AP.
Both ends.
I need both ends of the spectrum.
Okay.
Otherwise I want to lose my mind.
I understand that.
And I love them all to death, but still. And they're like, okay, we can definitely.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, that's cool. But I think the at-risk kids needed a mother. I was the oldest teacher at that point at Edinburgh. And I think that they would respect me because I was older and I would feed them.
Right. It goes back to food, yeah.
It goes back to the food.
Yeah.
But they would pay attention to me.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I think because I was older, they're like, well, how old are you? And I'm like, why? And they were like, well, my grandmoms. I'm like, shut up. I'm not as old. But I was
right.
And I'm like,
you're like, I taught your grandma.
I did. That was the worst.
Right.
The first time that happened, I was like, it was my first class, 1976.
Yeah. Well, I had it happen because I started in elementary school. And then when I went up to the high school for the end of my career, the kids who were older then, and by the time, and it happened before I ended I was there for 20 years.
Yes.
It was like, my grandma, you taught my grandma. I was like, oh, now I know what my mom's talking about. This is the weirdest thing ever. And then I was also like, I also understand why you are the way that you are right now. Because I taught your grandma and your uncle. I love them, but you guys are all a little crazy. I love you, but it's such a journey for teaching and coaching.
And I do miss teaching.
What do you miss about it?
I just think the interaction with kids. I really do.
Yeah.
Not the administration. I'm like,
I know.
No. Mostly I got along with everyone, but this whole new administration I wasn't a fan of. So it was time for me to get out. But Dr. Plattis, when I first got hired, really didn't rehire me after I had maternity. I mean, and it was a while. 12 years I took. They didn't have to rehire me.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. But one of the principals said, we're going with 2 young girls. And I said, excuse me. when I take you to court, the judge is going to say, there's 2 young girls. I said, I don't think you can say 2 young girls.
Right.
We're going with 2 young girls. Well, I'll deny I said it, is what he said. And I'm like, okay. Oh, well, I don't need to work. I don't need to work.
Right.
And the one is still there, but the other one lasted maybe a year and left, which we knew was going to happen. Because I kept saying, look, I'm a lifer around here. My husband's not going anywhere.
Right.
But I just said, like, it's crazy. So when I had an interview with
Innerborough
with Dr. Plattis, he said, where did you grow up? And I said, Chester. And he said, down by the river? And I said, no. Well, close to the river, but not as close as some of my friends. I said, no. And he said, did you ever call yourself river rats? And I'm like, why would I call myself a river rat?
Right.
Anyway, so that was, I didn't even know where he was. And I said, listen.
That was like part of the interview?
This was before we even started. I'm like,
right.
I don't think was that the wrong answer? Should I say
right?
Yeah.
You're like, should I be a river rat? Or?
Main Street, not
right.
like 1st Street or 2nd Street or whatever. So he just said, tell me about yourself. So, you know, like when you come from a family of 10, 9 girls and 1 boy, you figure out a whole lot of stuff early.
Sure.
Especially when I was one of the younger ones. I'm 3rd the youngest.
Okay.
So you get to watch. Like my oldest sister ran with the pagans. So I'm like, note to self, never make my mother cry. My brother set a field on fire with his friends. Note to self.
Learning not to do that.
Right. So, and I was saying that to Dr. Plattis. So I'm like, I don't know. Like everybody was I could see what I could do, what I should do, what I shouldn't do, like that. And I said, but he said, well, why should I hire you? And I said, I have to be honest. I'm passionate. If I have a job, I'm going to be passionate about that job. I'm going to do the best I can do. I'm going to research. I'm going to do whatever I can do just to make sure these kids get the education they need. And he's told me later, he said, I hired you because of your passion. He said, I could just tell just talking to you. So he said, Ridley lost out is what they said.
Yeah, they did. But Innerborough gained.
That's what I said. And I loved my time there. I really did. It was great. And that's what Mara kept saying. I'm like on the Ridley alumni page.
Right.
I'm not an alum.
No, we're counting you in.
You're by default. Because you've been around for so long.
Oh my gosh. So many different, spaces. I think you do end up exactly where you're meant to be.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not always sunshine and rainbows. Yeah. It's like, why wouldn't you keep me here? I'm a Ridley woman.
And it's on the back of my mother-in-law's memorial card when she died about God's timing is always perfect.
I love that.
And I can remember I went to a funeral and that's what was on the card. And I came and I said, Carl, look, because I hadn't gotten rehired.
Yeah.
And I said, look, and he said, okay. That's a sign.
It is. Yeah.
So it all, it did. It all turned out. It all worked out.
Yeah. You've been mentioning a couple times, and I have 2 questions I want to make sure I ask. The first one is, did you ever coach your kids?
Yes.
Yeah. And how did that go?
So, truth be told, I was going to resign when Maura came up.
Okay.
Because Sacred Hearts Academy, Randy Rogers, she coached both of her daughters.
Okay.
And I could see, if they lost or whatever, she'd be a little, I think, more angry at her daughters than the rest of the team.
Sure. Yeah.
So when
I car ride him with my dad some days. I get it.
You know what she said to me? I said, Randy, I think I'm going to resign. So I'm not going to coach more. She said, don't you dare. And I said, why? And she said, Debbie, what you do is on the field, she's a player just like everybody else. In your car, she's your daughter. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good tip. And that's what you have to, you can't, if you won, you won. If you lost, you lost. You move on. You can't blame anyone. You can't do whatever. And she said, please don't. So I said, Lamora, I can resign if you want.
Right.
And she said, no, I'll be fine.
Okay.
So she was fine. She was absolutely fine. Yeah.
And I think
even all of her friends, because I have known them their entire lives.
Right. You're coaching
so
them.
That was always.
That period of time where you're like, all right.
She had one that was a little slower than everybody else. And football players were there. And Laura just brought this to my attention a little bit ago. And she said, it was embarrassing for her. And I'm like, what? She said, you were shouting her name. I'm not going to say her name. But, and I started laughing. I said, it was all in good fun. And she said, I don't think she thought it was funny.
Right.
She said, maybe if the football players were going, oh, sorry. Then I apologize.
She survived.
Yeah.
Right. The other question I wanted to ask you, Schnell being a wrestling coach, What was the hardest part being a coach's wife? Or was there a hard part?
No, I didn't. I think because I coached also,
Okay.
so like I know I can just remember when he coached football with Joe McNick, and it was a day like this, so they canceled the Friday night game, and they played on Monday. They played Pencrest.
Gotcha.
And I said to Carl, "I'm not liking that you're playing on a Monday."
Right.
He goes, "Neither am I." And I said, "I can't explain it." And he goes, "Yeah, I feel the same way." So they actually did lose that game. So like in Joe McNick's mind, like we're never playing on Monday.
Right. Yeah. Bad luck.
But every now and then, like it happened, and they would lose when they played.
Oh, weird. Yeah.
Yeah. But no. And I said, I truly, truly think that's what made our marriage as strong as it was.
Okay.
That we had that in common. We were educators together.
Right.
That he wasn't around a lot.
Right.
No, I really think, I mean, like sometimes he'd leave 7 a.m. to go to school, and they'd have a wrestling match at Lower Merion at 8 o'clock.
Right.
Getting home to 11.
Yeah.
And even football. And then football, what he would do, he'd come home after football, and Mike Iannacci would put the game on at 11 o'clock.
Oh,
and
wow.
he'd sit at the edge of the bed with like
notes.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you doing? I said, I can't
watch him film.
I can't sleep with it. I can't sleep with it because I can't. I just couldn't sleep with the TV.
Yeah.
And he goes, I think you're going to have to go downstairs. I said, how about you go downstairs and watch it? He goes, no, I'm good. So, yeah. So, I mean, we really, truly, he would say that I was his best friend. I don't really go that way
awesome.
with it. You know, people go, I married my best friend. I'm like, did you really?
Right.
Because my best friend is my friend from kindergarten.
Right.
And he would, if you ask him, he would say, she's my best friend.
Okay.
And I think that we were just always so open with each other. No secrets, no nothing.
Yeah.
And the one time I said, Schnell, come up, please help me. I can't get them to get the ball in the net. And that's all. He goes, how hard can it be? And I'm like, well, there's like 22 feet.
Feet are in the way.
And I was like, I can't do it.
Now, were the fans, you hear people today say, like, stay stuff to the wife.
I got to tell you real fast.
Yeah.
This is pretty funny.
Okay.
God rest the lady's soul. She's dead.
Right.
I was pregnant with Adam, so we're talking like 40 years ago. It's in October, and he was doing December, and I'm like climbing up the stands, and I'm sitting.
Football season.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sitting with one of the teachers. He goes, why don't you stay down there? I said, I want to talk to you for a while, because he was another English teacher.
Okay.
So we're up there, and one of the football players, she never, ever, ever spoke ill of Carl.
Okay. Ever. She's a mom of a player?
It was mother of a player.
Okay.
She'd stand up there, and she'd go, Joe must go. Joe must go. And I said to the guy next to me, I'm like, she starts talking about Schnell, we're going to have a problem. No, you're pregnant. You're not going to have a problem. Right. I can't even say the other name because everybody would know.
Oh, yeah, we won't do that.
But she was being so rude to like all of the other coaches. She's naming them. And I said, somebody make her sit down.
Right.
Like somebody has to put a stop to this.
Right.
Like you can't. What
did you do it?
You're pregnant. You're not doing that.
Right.
So I think maybe the game manager came
and said you need to take a seat or get going. Right. Yeah. Is it because her kid wasn't in the game?
No, he was. So we had to figure it out. He was a good athlete. I was so baffled by that. And I'm like, I don't think I understand that.
Right.
I don't think she could think of anything to rhyme with Schnell. Like if she could rhyme that.
She was chanting everyone else's. Oh my gosh. Or maybe she was afraid of you. Who knows?
Because you're mean.
Well, you bring passion. We're very similar in that we can come off pretty strong to people. Yeah. That scares some other people who aren't so sure. Sometimes people in the stands with the coaches, you got to, have deaf ears to some of those
that's what I said too.
chants.
I said to Chaz Mares, you want me to be game manager? He goes, no.
Currently? Yes. Right, you're willing to go do it now. You'll be like, nope, not today.
I said, let me do it. He's like, no. The police will be here.
Right? Oh my gosh. I'm for it. I might tell him that you're in. This is the official, interview, application submitted. But so many things I could steal from your journey. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Absolutely.
Is there any one tip before we go to our last question that if you could say to coaches, athletes, parents, or as a whole that you would say, well, I want to tell them this?
The one thing I would say is you need to build your program. We have so many coaches that they're there for a little bit and they're gone.
Yeah.
And like when I was there for the duration. The people before me, they were there. Carl was there 54 years. Joe McNick was there however many. You know what I mean? So you have to build that. You have the patience. You're going to have seasons that are not what they should be.
Sure.
And you just have to have the patience to endure all that craziness. Like, oh my God, like, what's going to happen? What do I have to do? How can I fix this?
Yeah.
I
learn
think,
from it, like you've been
exactly,
saying.
you have to.
Yeah.
But I really think like you have to be willing, because I kept saying to Mara when she first started, she may, and I couldn't stop laughing because she may have won one game, maybe 2 games her first season.
Okay.
And I said, oh, so good thing your dad's not around.
Right.
Why? And I said, ooh, he'd be like, you'd be crying probably. And she goes, it'll get better. I said, Mara, I swear to you, I promise it will get better.
Right.
And then she just started, like, she was online looking, and she's calling other coaches, and she's like doing
trying to figure it out, trying to learn,
figure out what I have to do. Yeah. So then the next year it was better. So this her 6th year, she made it to playoffs.
Right.
And because she didn't listen to me, she could have won, but she didn't want to listen to
me.
And that's okay, I guess. Because I said to her, why don't you listen to me? And she goes, I just didn't think it was right at the time. And I'm like, well, you could have won that one, but okay. Put that under, put that away, and we'll figure it out.
If you don't win, you learn.
You learn.
Right? Like you've been saying.
To listen
yeah. And it comes, like you said, they have to be willing to, put that investment in and know.
They have to.
Not every season is going to be a winning season. Yeah. And it's amazing when you can be there.
And I have to tell you, to be quite honest, I've had teams that like during preseason, I'm like, oh,
right.
What the heck's
what's happening?
What's going to happen here?
Right.
And even at the collegiate level.
Yeah.
Jackie always played better teams. Always in the beginning of the season. Like we're going to play better teams.
Yeah. And
Carl told me that too. He said, you have got to start playing better teams to get better. Now, you don't want to get your butt handed to you every time.
Yeah.
But still, put at least 3 teams in there that you probably can't win.
Yeah.
But figure it out.
Yeah.
And you're going to get better by doing that.
Yeah.
And we actually did that. So at Cabrini, College of New Jersey was always phenomenal.
Okay.
And I can remember we beat them this one year, and I was like, oh my God. Like with the group that we had, we knew we were okay,
right?
But not College of New Jersey. Okay?
Right. You're like, oh, we won this.
And it was phenomenal. So, but it was a group that we had maybe 4 good players.
Okay.
But in college, you need more than 4, but we beat them.
Yeah.
And even their coach, I love their coach. She was great. Like she was never negative or, like great game and the whole bit.
Yeah.
But, I think that you have to figure it out. You have what you have. Like, it's not like I can go recruit. And I mean, I know like the private schools, because I actually coached at Villa Maria.
Oh, you did? In the summer. Oh, okay.
She asked me to help out with some camps.
Gotcha.
And I was laughing and I said, Maureen, you're looking for players. You can't trick me.
Right.
And she goes, no, Schnell. I'm like, yes, you are. And it's like the one girl was from Marple and she was really good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're going to offer her a scholarship. No, I'm not. She did.
Right.
And I said, you can't trick me.
I mean, it's what every private school does, right? I mean, if she didn't do it, she would be at a disadvantage.
Exactly.
She may feel bad, be like, that's not what I'm doing, but...
And I loved playing. I absolutely loved playing her. Because they were always so skilled, and we were like, cadets coming.
Okay.
And that was the whole, like, with boosters, I never had boosters. Carl started boosters with wrestling and always had like a phenomenal amount of money in there. So they'd buy, get whatever.
Right.
But I would just go up to the athletic director and say, am I going to get uniforms? And he said, no, you don't have money this year. And I'm like,
do you think my 78 girls could match?
I said, listen, what do I do?
Right.
So we got uniforms from the middle school. They never bought me uniforms.
Okay.
And I said, like, if I go to playoffs, am I going to ever get a uniform? Well, we'll see. Maybe you should have boosters. I said, I pay taxes here. All these girls, their parents pay taxes here. You're making me, what?
Right.
I'm not doing it. I refused. I stood my ground. And my senior year, one of the parents started, and I said to Mark, what's going on over there? She said, because they hid it from me.
Because they knew you were against it.
Like, no. Because I just feel like sometimes that gives parents a little too much say.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing all this, and my daughter's still not.
Right.
There.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, thank you for all of this. We're going to go to our last question, which I ask everyone for season 5. If you were the main character, which I feel like you would own that main character energy, by the way, of a movie called The Champion Within, the screen goes to black, we're left on a cliffhanger. What do you think the audience would be shouting or writing on social media that they hope you do next?
I think they would 100% say that they hope that I would travel. because it's something I've always wanted to do, but just haven't had a chance. I ran into a former student. She said to me, "Schnell, how old are you now?" And I said, I'll be 72 next week. I said, 72. And she goes, "What?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Oh." I said, "Well, how old are you?" And she said, "I'll just say 19, 20.
Right.
And I said, "Oh, that's great." And I said to her, "Well, you have a whole life in front of you.
Right.
Do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do."
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And I said, do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do. And I think that when that screen goes black, that they're going to go, "It's time for you now to go."
Where are you going? Good. Yeah.
Paris. Yeah. I had a phenomenal French teacher in junior high and high school. And then in college, because I switched over to secondary education, I had to take 2 more years of language. So I took 2 more years of French. I love everything French. It's freaky. Yeah. Even now and then, like, I'll hear things and I'll remember. And on my phone, if I say French, it'll show up and I'll try to figure out what it's saying. But yeah, that's what it is.
I'm going to challenge you to book it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, because,
you do what you have to do.
So you can do want to do. Yeah, now's the time.
And I said, so my next 72 years,
there you go.
I'm going to travel. And then she's like, okay, maybe not 72.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that sounds amazing. I'm here for it. I would be with the crowd shouting, "Go to Paris." Yeah. I love it for you.
100%. That's what
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting. Yeah, I know everyone's going to learn so much, and I appreciate all that you openly shared. Yeah. And remember, we're not talking directly about you. Well, maybe some of you.
I might be.
But
they know me well enough that I might be.
Right. But we appreciate you hanging out with us on the Champion Within, and we hope that you have an amazing week ahead. Thank you again, Schnell.
Right, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you for hanging out with Kate today. And whether you're going to coach, teach, cheer from the sidelines, or hitting the field yourself, remember, mindset is everything. Don't forget to follow the show for the latest episodes, as we all need a little extra motivation, humor, and sanity in our busy lives. Now, go and unleash your champion within you, one step at a time. We're always rooting for you.